Welcome to the Take a Mulligan Podcast with your hosts, Brian and Kenny Mulligan. We hope to encourage you not to quit and keep going. If you're at that place where you just want to stop and give up, don't. Second chances can happen. Try again and take a mulligan.
Hey, welcome back to Take a Mulligan Podcast. We're so glad you're here with us tonight. As we're approaching some holiday seasons, getting a little chillier out there, and nice to know we're getting close to Thanksgiving here. So Kenny and I, we like to come on here and talk about different things, and sometimes we forget that we're just trying to have conversations with each other as well, so you get to know us a little bit better. And I think that's a big part of this, the podcast world is you kind of get to know the people that are on a little bit more and get to engage with them and understand their lives a little bit better. So Kenny, I just want to check in with you. How's the gym going? I know we kind of briefly mentioned a couple episodes back that you became a personal trainer, which is really exciting and fun for you. So how's things going with gym life?
It's pretty wild. So I feel like, I don't know, I feel like a kid in some ways. Like I'm back in school, like I'm learning all over again. So, it's a weird journey because I'm not, I don't foresee myself going into it as a full-time career at all. Like that's not my, main intent. Maybe that would happen based on life circumstances or something like that. I would do that. I didn't realize the gym. So let me tell you where I'm at. So obviously I have a certification for personal training, which I thought was pretty cool, and it's a lot of studying, but it's through NASM, or National Association of Science Medicine is what the title is for. So it's one of the most reputable companies out there. So that was pretty cool to get through that. And what they do is they offer you what they call a gym-turnship. And so they hook you up with a gym as they go in and sort of do some things a little bit. Most guys I'm finding out don't even do that. They just sort of go to a gym, apply for the job and get in there, right? And I'm like, I just don't feel like I'm there yet. Like I'm sure I could do it, right? And I'm sure I could go home, get my homework together, what exercises you could do, and all that kind of stuff, and be prepared. Because I see that that's what the guys are doing. Some of the guys I'm working with are newer, like really new, like they've been doing this for 6 months or a year, And, they have their little cheat sheets of, okay, we're going to do this exercise next and then this. And so, they know the exercises. They went home, they got their little list together and they're working with you. And they're trying to work on what muscles you need. So, but it is fascinating to watch because every guy is different. Some guys are really serious. Some guys have been in it a lot longer. I feel like, the gym was not something I ever grew up with. I mean, I didn't go work out at the gym growing up. Mom and dad never went to the gym. I mean, that's a new thing that kids are growing up with today. Oh yeah, mom and dad are at the gym. We never grew up with that. That wasn't a thing. And so I feel like it's a world that I'm not familiar with really, other than my own workouts over the past few years and now then going through this training. But what's been interesting, and that's why I would love your perspective on this too, because I just think it's fascinating that most of us think when we go to the gym that, okay, this guy's going down, you want to get in shape, you want to work out. And so you go down there and maybe you start lifting little weights and you go on a machine and say, I'll try this machine, this is what it's like. And I know we've hit on this before, but the struggle is, and this is what I'm realizing through some of this, the shadowing, what I call it, is that there are a lot of people. Yes, there are those people who are fit and they went from high school sports to college sports and now they're in their 30s or their 40s and they come to the gym and you know what? They still look like they're in their 20s and they're in good shape and they know what they're doing on the machines. But that's not the average person in the average town gym. It's just not. It's the 50-year-old guy who's about 100 pounds overweight. And he's walking in there saying, I got to do something because if I don't, the doctor said, I'm type 2 diabetic now. And so they're trying to make some changes. Some of them are serious. And that's the ones that, the personal trainers are working with because they're willing to invest the money to get some personal training. Others, they come in, they get on the treadmill, they're there for a while, they go over, do a couple weight things, and then they leave. And one of the things I've learned about this industry is when people doesn't show up for your personal training session, then the trainer just sits there. They have nothing to do, right? So they're waiting for their next client. So sometimes it's just boring. I mean, it literally is. It's boring because they might have 2 or 3 clients in a row, and then they have 2 hours where they got nothing to do. And I know that's not ideal, but that's just the reality of it. So I get to watch, and it's been very interesting because the guy I'm working with, his name is Dale, and he's a really great guy, and he has a doctorate in kinesiology. And so when people walk in the gym, like he can see what's going on just by the way they walk. Like they may walk and their feet may be slightly outward. So obviously they have hip flexion problems, right? Because their feet are not walking in front of them. They're, and sometimes one is a little bit more off than the other one, right? And so it's interesting because if someone comes into the gym, and this is what I've been learning, if they come in and they start doing these exercises, what's going to happen is if they don't have the right mobility and they don't have the right, they can't start doing the exercise the proper way, and they don't learn how to do the exercise the proper way. They're doing it incorrectly. And so then as they progress, they're going to add weight to that exercise, whatever that is. And then guess what? Now they're going to injure themselves because their body is not having the right support from the very beginning, right? Does that make sense? When you're in PT world,
you're preaching to the choir here.
I know. So like, I mean, it's so what's fascinating me about is nobody ever talks about it. Like here I got into this thing thinking most people go to the gym have no idea what to work out on. Like, okay, so what should I do? What should I do for upper body? What should I do for lower body? Is this a good exercise? Is not a good exercise? If you're, what's the difference between a man versus a woman working out? Because some guys will, we just want to get big and strong and all this kind of stuff. Most women don't want to look like that. So how do you work out with them different? And I'm thinking it from that perspective, not realizing that most of the challenge is just in mobility with those who are coming into the gym. And if you could teach them mobility and they can stretch more and they can move more, some of the other things are just going to come a lot easier.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just to echo what you're saying, I mean, that's, my world of PT. I mean, that's what we do all the time is assessing, alignment issues. And I'm very, very big on form. I don't think anybody can do exercises well if they don't have good form, and alignment, kind of falls in line with the form part of it. But it kind of drives me crazy sometimes to go into a gym setting because as soon as I walk in, I see the same thing. Like I see people with bad form exercising. I just want to go right over and kind of correct them or tell them, but people are not very receptive to that in the gym setting at all. And like you were saying before, it's funny because in my experience, it is this like, I guess it's that alpha male sometimes that like they just know better and they've been in the gym for 5 years. So I know more than being a PT or a personal trainer for 25 years or more or whatever. I know more because I've been in the gym and I've been working out, and it's just this weird attitude. And I'm sure they've watched stuff, learned stuff, read stuff. Some people probably have done a lot of that. And there's a lot of others that just are kind of trying to fake their way through it. But I always, I'm always after my patients on form all the time. And I've had a lot of patients, I think I mentioned this on another podcast, where, they want to get into a gym setting now that they're feeling better, but they're scared, they're intimidated, they don't really know what to do. And I've had some that have told me, like, I want to go to the gym, but I go to these machines, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know exactly what this machine does or how to use it. So they get embarrassed and they move on. Or like you said, they just have a really, really bad form. And then, the form is going to lead into an injury, or it's going to be kind of an ineffective exercise. And I see that a lot with our bodies compensate so quickly and so much when we aren't using the right muscles. So I see that all the time too, even with patients I work with. And I know definitely in gym settings, because a lot of patients I have are in a gym and I'll have to correct some of their form on stuff they've been doing for years. I'm like, yeah, you're engaging the wrong muscles here. You gotta, use this and use that to get the right things moving. And what's interesting is just by changing that, their whole exercise changed, because you can watch some people doing an exercise and they're compensating so much. I'm like, you're trying to work your biceps and do bicep curls. Everything else is moving. I don't even think your biceps are doing much anymore.
Yeah,
so it's like, because they're just compensating. They're leaning back. They're trying to jack up the weight on there. And then they're throwing their back backwards and, their arms are barely actually bending. Their whole body's moving. So there's a lot of exercise like that, that needs a lot of correction. And unless it gets corrected early on or by someone, like, again, if they're working with you as a trainer and you're helping them in that initial stage, they're going to be better off in the long run because they're going to learn how to do it and form. versus like, oh, I've been at the gym for 5 years and now I decided to get a
Yeah,
trainer. Oh, I know how I'm doing it. I know what I'm doing. And I think what's interesting is going back to that piece of it. I've always struggled with that because, playing sports most of my life, I always find it so hysterical how everybody knows everything about injuries just because they've played sports. They could know nothing. They might have played sports their whole life. Even just playing like recreational basketball, recreational softball, somebody, twists their ankle and all of a sudden, I might be the only one around that has any kind of background like this. And 5 other people are like, oh, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this. They all have these different theories. It's like, if you want to ask me, I'm right here. I actually probably know more about what you should be doing than most of you guys just because you played sports. So in the gym, I think it's a very similar type of setup.
So little side lesson we could, for us, but for everybody is never think you're the smartest person in the room. Like just go in there with that humility. There's somebody in this room that's smarter than me, and I have that idea to just sit back a little bit. It's okay, because the same thing. You just watch these people think they know. It's funny. There's this one guy who comes in and works out because I've been going to this gym now for I don't know 5 weeks now. I guess I've been going there and watching and. It's funny because we'll look over at this guy, and this guy comes in. He's working out. He's tough. There's all kinds of stuff. And the guy working with the personal trainer, he looks over. He goes, "Okay, see that exercise he's doing? I have no idea what he's doing, but here he is over there thinking he's doing something. It's like, no, he's not even doing anything. Like, but he looks tough, and he got the big weights. Yeah, and then you got some other guys that come in, and they got to drop the weights every time because they just want the whole gym to know how much weight they're lifting. It's just crazy some of this stuff.
Well, now you got the whole other piece of it too with the gyms now, with all these people like on social media, they're videotaping their workouts.
Oh.
So they're sitting their phone up while they're working out, and then you got people walking past trying to figure out what they're doing, and heard lots of stories of people getting in trouble that way because they're looking at somebody videotaping themselves and getting in trouble for it, and it's a crazy world out there in the gyms.
It's funny too with the phones. Like you get people that come in and they're serious. They're there to work out, right? And then you got the other people. I think they just tell people they go to the gym because they come in and they'll do a few reps and then they'll put their phone on, they're scrolling and they're watching. Then they'll go back and do a little bit more. And it's like, oh, come on, seriously, are you here to work out? Are you here to just play?
Yeah.
Or other people are like they're on their bike. And then, they're pedaling like really slow while they're on their phone scrolling. Yeah, I went to the gym for 45 minutes today. It's like,
I think I burned 3 calories.
Yeah, I know. So what do you think about that? I thought maybe just give some maybe some tips or something that you think, and maybe I could give some tips too to our listeners if you are working out, some things to watch for, to look for. I know some of the things that you go back to the posture. So we had this older guy walk in the gym, and one of the trainers goes, he says, okay, so tell me what do you see, right? Because they're helping me really to try to observe where are they out of alignment, because you have to know. Like I'm realizing as a trainer, you need to know where their weak muscles are, because that's where you want to strengthen in order to get their posture correct, because that may take months alone, right, to get their posture just correct, and then
Lifetime.
or lifetime. And so one guy walks in and I'm like, he's like, so what do you see? And I'm like, oh my goodness. And he wasn't hunched over. Okay. But his literally spine was almost straight. So it sort of was a hunchback, but not really. But as he's walking, you could literally see the stress on his knees. And I'm like, because he was wearing shorts, so it was easy to see it. Like he wasn't wearing, just pants. And I'm like, oh my goodness, that guy's in trouble. Like he's like, yes, he is. He said, and if he doesn't get some help either, and I mean, he was a person that I would have said, because this gym's hooked up to there's a physical therapy place right there, and this is somebody who would have said, look, we can work with you, but we suggest you work with a physical therapist for like a few months, and then come back. And that's one of the good things about this gym is they do that. So it's really cool. But again, not everybody listens. So what are some of the things that you could give, like, and it maybe some pointers that just to the average person, what is your posture like? What are some things you can look for?
Yeah.
I know one of the things we look for is where do your feet land? Are you walking with your feet straight in front of you, or do your feet go off to the right, or, off to the sides? And maybe because sometimes when you get overweight, I guess that's a natural inclination or a natural thing. You just start putting your feet out a little bit. but or do your feet cave in a little bit? Or, so that's something easy anybody could look for as they're walking, right?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, it's occupational hazard for me. Can't watch I can't
People.
watch people walk and not like, oh, they probably have this or probably have that, or, might have
Yeah.
this condition or something's wrong with their knee or the hip. It's just, I can't not do that. And, just because I've watched, and done gait analysis on so many people my entire career. So it's pretty natural to see things. And when you do see one thing, it's like, sometimes it takes a little while to figure out, okay, wait, is their hip going out to the side because something's happening with their spine? Is something happening at their knee that's driving the hip out? Is the hip just weak and it's falling out? So which piece of that is? So it's not always really easy to see first time. And sometimes with my patients, it takes me, 2, 3, 4, or 5 visits to really piece everything together, trying to figure out, okay, I saw this the first day. I'm seeing more of this, but now this day I'm kind of seeing something else that makes sense. And I see that all the time with my patients. So I always analyze posture. I always analyze gait. So that's part of what I do. But what you were saying is it's interesting because we all have anomalies. We're not symmetrical. We all have asymmetries. Everybody's so different. So if people walk with their feet turned out, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's a problem. That could be just the way their bodies are designed to have different rotation at their hips, making that happen. They could have some torquing at their knee. So what I've found is sometimes when you try to overcorrect, it causes more problems just because their body is that way.
Okay.
So if their body's flexible and their body can move in more natural ways, then that's something you definitely can work more with. But if you're trying to force something, that's not going to happen because their body, their genes, their makeup, maybe their whole life, they've just been that way. And things have gotten tighter now at the hips and the knee, and they actually can't move physically now. That's where all the extra stress comes in. And that's where, people start getting all kinds of issues with their joints. I have one patient now who, she has really bad hips, and she had a hip issue. They call it hip dysplasia, where you're having issues with the joint itself when she was young, and she should have been braced and she never was. So she just had that hip replaced, and there's still a lot of wacky stuff going on with that hip that I don't know how much we're going to be able to correct, even though she just had a hip replaced.
Wow.
Because it's been a lifetime of
yeah.
muscle shortening and tightening, and we're trying to stretch as much as we can. But, so certain conditions like that, then you almost get to the point where you need them to compensate a little bit to be functional, but we want to make sure we correct as much, improper alignment issues as possible. But I mean, I could talk on posture, for an hour. There's so much to it. And the thing is really, we're all bad at it. Gravity is way stronger than we realize. So all day long, we're either sitting or standing with this huge force of gravity pushing down on us, which is why it's so easy to get that rounded shoulders, forward head posture. We're looking at devices which bring our head down. We're looking at computer screens which bring our head down. I think we've cued into a little bit of that in recent years, where people are getting more of the standing desks, trying to get upright a little bit more, trying to walk around a little bit more. But in general, I always tell all my patients, the only way you're going to make your posture better is by correcting it. And the only way you're going to correct it is by knowing what you're supposed to correct and then practice correcting it. And the more you do that, you'll actually build up the endurance of the muscles and the strength to fight against gravity. Because that's really the big problem, is our backs get weak, our upper backs, our neck. We get weak and lose not only the mobility, but we lose the strength and the endurance of the muscles to fight against that, because it's easier to just be slumped over. It's lazy and easier. It's a lot of work to stand up straight and fight gravity for any length of time. So I always tell my patients, I don't expect anybody to sit or stand with good posture all day long. It's impossible. But the more they're aware of it, the more they can correct it. The more they correct it, the stronger they can get. And again, that feeds all into that alignment issue, because if, all our alignment gets all thrown off when our posture is not good. And that's, obvious with the spine, but there's also the posturing of our knees and our joints and our ankles and our hips and all these other joints, of how that aligns as well, and what that does for the muscles and the tension. But the other thing I would recommend as advice is stretch, stretch, stretch. And I think we kind of talked briefly about that in another episode. But I find a lot of, there's a lot of good group classes, I think, that do a good job with stretching, sometimes before, sometimes after, sometimes both. But I find that these group classes are really, we're going to get more stretching. Most I mean, I don't know if you're doing much stretching as part of the routine that you learn to work with your
Yeah,
clients,
we
but I
did.
know, okay, because that's a piece I think that misses a lot. And I think it's gotten more awareness lately in the last several years. But generally, stretching out before a workout, great. But stretching out after is just as important, if not more sometimes, because the muscles are all tense and tight. And then that's when people go into either, the fatiguing factor, or they're just cramping up because of all the effort on the muscle. So stretching out afterwards is better. And again, that's a thing that needs to stay with us. Posture and stretching needs to stay with us all of our life, because it just keeps getting worse and harder as we age. And, the stretching, the posture go hand in hand, because if you don't pay attention to posture, and now you're that older gentleman who's all hunched over. I've had plenty of those patients. You can't straighten them up anymore. They're done. They won't straighten because the spine is kind of all locked in. The ligaments and muscles and everything are locked in. They can't even physically stretch out of it anymore. So now they can't stretch as well, and they definitely can't correct their posture as well. So now they're leading to a lot of other stuff. So the advice I would say is, when we used to talk to these kids in grammar school with the nuns, and they told them to sit up
Uh,
straight, we missed out on that, because man, we should be doing that all the time
yeah.
still.
So, and I wish they would, we've talked about this a little bit before, but I wish they would introduce this kind of stuff into, middle school and high
Mhm.
school
Yeah.
phys ed classes, because boy,
Yep.
if you learned how to stretch properly, and before workout and after workout stretches are different too.
Yeah.
You do certain ones before you work out, certain ones after you do, because you don't want to stretch your muscles the wrong way, or get into too much static stretching before your workout, because you want to do those after. Um, I wish we had learned all that stuff. So
Yeah.
I guess if somebody's listening or they're going to the gym, I would say, you could easily look up online for what's the proper stance. I know when you're doing a squat, your feet should be shoulder width. So that's where your feet are, right? And when you come down on a squat, your knees should go over your toes. So we continually go, when you do a lunge, your knee goes over your toes. So you're continually trying to keep your body in line, no matter how much you're moving, so that your body's strong. So you're building it. You have that stability. You're not trying to do exercises that's going to throw your body off balance, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there's so many things, like, just a simple, like a lunge, where you put your knee in front, or your leg in front, and you go into a knee. So you need, like, you're kneeling down and you're stretching out your back leg. It's a lunge, right?
Hmm.
And those simple little stretch exercises then become, you can add a little bit of weight to it. Now you just put a little weight in your hand, and now you're simply gaining a little bit more muscle resistance, because you're adding that resistance weight. Um, so I think there's some really simple things people could do, but and watching where your posture is in your neck too,
Hmm.
and working your back muscles, because a lot of people never concentrate on their back muscles. And if you do that upper back, and if you're going to the gym, you use machines that show you the upper back muscles. Work those, so that then your posture is going to naturally stand up stronger, because your back muscles are pulling you back now, right?
Yeah, those are the muscles that are really kicking in. Those are your postural muscles. But the hard part is with the neck you mentioned. Yeah, that's the one that gets overworked probably more than anything. And that's one of the things I'm always correcting my patients on, because I see a lot of patients with neck issues.
Yeah.
And, if they're coming in with neck issues and they show me their gym routine, and they're hiking up those shoulders on all kinds of exercise that those muscles should not be kicking in on. Those are big compensatory muscles. They kick in and help us out when we don't need it. And that's also where all your stress sits naturally. So those muscles create a lot of tension in there already. From posture is one thing, and from life stress that settles there is two things already giving you a lot of stress in
Yeah.
those upper neck muscles. So then all of a sudden you start doing rows, or you start doing, shrugs, or all kinds of stuff that engage those muscles more. Or you do like a rowing or a lat pull down, and you're pulling those muscles in when they never should be. Now you're just throwing more and more and more work onto those muscles, and they create problems back there. So yeah, it's an interesting world, and I wish more people were educating themselves a little bit better as to what to do, what to look for. And like I said, everybody should have their own goals of why they're going to the gym, what they're looking to do. Are they looking to build strength? They're looking to build muscle endurance. They're looking to build cardio. Lose weight. We have all these different goals, and I think going in with the right goals is important, but then also
Yeah.
working on the right things is the key for that.
Yeah, so I would recommend to people who are listening, if you're going to a gym, take the extra money, invest in a personal trainer, and I know the gym we go to, like you can hire a personal trainer once a month. Like you buy so many sessions and you got once a month. So do that. They'll give you some exercises to do. They'll make sure your posture's correct when you start working with them. And guess what? A month later, you come back in and they'll say, "Oh, your posture's out again here. We got to work on this." And the more you can afford, obviously, the better. Some people I'm watching, they got 3 hours a week personal training. I mean, that's crazy. But the progress they're making is phenomenal. One of the women is this one trainer's working with. She lost, I think it's over like 6 months, maybe. I could be wrong on the months, but she's lost 27 inches overall.
Wow.
And she's if she's not late 50s, she's early 60s. I'm like, man, that's amazing, because that's the other struggle. And, we'll segue a little bit here, but that's the other struggle is as we age, it gets harder and harder and we lose it faster and faster. So
Yeah.
if we don't start doing something exercise wise when we're in our 50s, at least, it's going to be that much harder when we hit 60 or 70 or 80. So I highly recommend people start working out.
And I know we did talk about this on a former podcast about aging. We had a whole podcast on that. And, it's an interesting connection with the gym. I don't know that we really kind of talked about that so much, but I mean, there's a lot of patients I have that are well into their, 60s, 70s, even 80s that do actually go to a gym. All these 55 and over communities that are around me. There's lots of patients I have that go to, that live in those communities. And again, 55 is a lot younger than 85. But they all have like a fitness center in there, a small gym in there, depending on the, the development of the facility that they're living in. So a lot of patients I work with have access to some of that stuff, or some of them go to the Y, or some of them go to a local gym. So I'm definitely seeing an aging population still going to the gym, or some of them, just started going when they turned 70, never went in their entire life. So that's a whole different world too. And, one, I think they get a little nervous. Also, they have that same intimidation going to the gym, not having ever gone. And now they're 70 or 73 or 75, and they may not have any idea what to do or what to work on. So again, not being afraid to do that, because I think it's amazing to see an aging population concerned about their health. And, we're like, I think we mentioned this before, we're not aging backwards. So how are we aging? How are we going to age? So I think that's a great way to talk about. So Kenny and I are involved in this company called ID Life. It's a health and wellness company. We've been involved with them for many, many years. They make a lot of all natural products for all kinds of different things, lifestyle products, general nutrition. So there's a lot that they make, and they come out with new products when they find that, hey, we need to find something to do this. They're going to do the best job they can to find the best product to hit that area that needs to be done. And they're really pioneering in a lot of their research and what they're researching in, and how they're developing ways to do things the best. It's easy for us to say, they're the best company because we work with them and we love them. We love their products. But they do really create an amazing atmosphere. The culture and the leadership of the company is just outstanding. It's like none other. And that's a great part of it. And I think that gives so much integrity, not only to the company, to the people that work with it, but also to the products that they develop. Their research team is amazing. They're always looking for ways to do not the second best thing at something, but the best way to do something. So I know it's sounded like a little bit of an advertisement, but we wanted to talk briefly about connecting these two things together. Is a new product they came out with called BioAge.
Yeah,
so if you want to talk a little bit about that, Ken.
Amazing product. So I never heard about this stuff. Like I never heard of this whole technology behind this anti-aging thing. I mean, you see, if you're watching late night TV or something, you got the creams out, put this on your face, it's take away the wrinkles, and it's all this stuff about, because it's a big thing out there. I didn't realize how many people they want to look younger, they want to feel younger. So I had no idea. And all of a sudden, I'd like saying, hey, we're coming out with this new product, and then we get hints, and it's like, it's something about anti-aging. And I'm like, okay, that sounds cool, right? I mean, whatever, had no idea what was behind it. And, as Brian is saying here too, I love our research team. They are amazing at the in-depth stuff of what they do. And even the products that come into the company, they have to be tested 3 times before they go out. And that's pretty mind-boggling that they do that. And if they don't reach all the standards of those three tests, of all the standards of those tests, then they will reject it and send it back out because they want to make sure the products are good. And so here this thing came out, and some people are talking about it, and it was like this thing called NADs. I was like, well, what the heck is an NAD, right? And to come to find out that the science has been around for years. It's nothing new, but it's pretty much been reserved for movie stars and athletes and people who had a lot of money, right, Brian? I mean, that's your understanding too, right? And
yeah,
I mean, Joe Rogan's talking about this. I understand he's had some guests on his podcast, all that kind of stuff. So it's been out there. People talk about this, but the idea of replenishing your NADs in your body because your body starts to lose them as we age. And again, this was new to me. I was like, okay, I didn't know what an NAD was, right? Never mind, we lose them when we age. But so it's been very interesting to find out that from the time we're born, where where our cells are strong and all that kind of stuff because we're new life. But as we age, by the time we're hitting 30, 40, our NAD level has dropped 50%. And so, first of all, it's like, okay, so what are NADs? And our best understanding of this product is, because we're not scientists, we're not pharmacists, we're not, we don't understand all the medical stuff all behind it. But it's basically, it's what energizes the mitochondria of the cell, which is the cells are that's the source of energy, right, for our bodies.
It's
right,
the powerhouse of the cells in my
country. Yeah, powerhouse of cells. So what happens is the NADs is what's feeding it. It's like plugging a cell phone in to recharge overnight. Without the NADs, your cells literally don't have the energy they used to. And this is why we age. This is why when you get to 40, I can't, it was so funny because, here I just hit 60 and you run into people that are 40, like, oh man, I feel like I'm getting so old because their NAD levels have dropped 50% already. And of course you're feeling old, right? And so how do you fix that, right? And so naturally our bodies are just aging. So our hairs turn gray, we get wrinkles and things happen because we're getting older. So the thought that you can now replenish the NADs in your body that will now give power to your cells again. Wow. I'm like, who knows what that could do, right? I mean, I know there's science behind all the stuff that they're expecting, but it's just amazing to even think about that our cells could now have that new life again to it, right?
Yeah. So just to kind of clarify a little bit, so an NAD is a coenzyme, plays a central role in metabolism of the cells, and it is thought that by replenishing these levels, because they decline as we age, you can actually, some research is showing that you can help slow or reverse the effects of aging, which is why this product has kind of been touted as reversing aging, and that's that's all the science behind it. So like Kenny said, we do have a lot of stuff out there. We talked about that in that other podcast about aging, just all the billions of dollars being spent in this industry for anti-aging and how it's growing and growing and growing. And some of this stuff that they're using to replenish the NAD is, infusions that, are a very small percentage of what can help this for a very, very costly amount.
High price.
And, 4 or 5 hours of sitting on an infusion to get a very small amount of this NAD to replenish and resurge the cells at the mitochondrial level. So having this is just, it's so important. It's an amazing option for people who are already understanding the world of anti-aging. New to me because I didn't really think about it much before, but it really is. It's an amazing product to be able to be very, very competitive in a very growing field of knowledge and growing field of resource for a lot of people. We talked about before, in the last podcast about, some of the effects of aging. We get muscle weakness and tissue dysfunction and impaired wound healing, chronic sleep issues, impaired immune function. There's so many things, impaired metabolic function and weight gain. Like all these things are happening as we age, so that if we can reverse that a little bit or slow it down a little bit is an amazing option. Yeah. And the cool part is, again, with all the research they've done, and I think we will come back on again to dive even deeper into some of the science behind it a little bit. We just wanted to kind of briefly mention it and talk about it. So one of the cool things about it is they did a lot of research on what's the best way to engage this all. Is it a pill? Is it, an injection? What is the best form to get this to us? So they came up. Yeah, go ahead.
Before you share the method of getting it into our bodies, I thought it was very interesting because the reason movie stars and actors and all that kind of stuff can get it is because an IV form costs a lot of money, and that's the only way. You got to get it into your bloodstream. So that's our understanding. To get it into your cells, you got to get it into your bloodstream as fast as possible. So a lot of companies came out on the market and they said, "Oh, well, we're just going to put it in a pill," and so they start putting it in a pill. And I look, you go up online, look at NAD. And you can find it. And you'll find pill bottles, and they cost hundreds of dollars. Now, some cheap companies may have some knockovers or something like that, but they're hundreds of dollars for a pill. And we're finding out that, okay, but if you take a pill, your stomach acid will destroy it before it ever gets to your cells. So you're basically just wasting your money. But what I love about our company that we work with is they were like, okay, there's got to be a better way. We got to figure it out. There's got to be a better way. There's got to be a cheaper way. How do we get this in the hands of the average person? Just like we did with customized nutrition. Because for the average for other people, they can spend $1,000 a month on personalized nutrition that's designed just for them. Okay, ID Life said, hey, how can we do this cheaper, right? And so we got it into the hands of the average person. And so here they come out they started researching, and even the research team said, "Oh, it can't be done. It can't be done. That form is not going to work, right?" And so Brian, go tell them that it does work. And what did our team come up with?
Yeah, so it's a dissolvable strip, so it's sublingual, kind of like a nitroglycerin. We know that for heart issues that gets directly into the bloodstream by going under the tongue. So it's the same mechanism. It's a little strip that dissolves, kind of like a Listerine strip that they used to have out. I don't even know if they make them anymore. So it's just this tiny little strip you put under your tongue and it dissolves, and then it enacts it. And so I'll explain for me what I've noticed with it. So I've been taking this probably about 3 weeks, I guess now, somewhere around there. So I didn't know if I really noticed much. One thing I will say is it's a powerful mint flavor. So if you didn't happen to brush your teeth in the morning, you really don't have to, because it's very minty. I do brush, but it's a very intense mint. And that was part of it as well, to open up everything with the menthol to get this enacting even better. That was kind of the design behind it as well. So it's easy to take. And so I also use a lot of their products. They have a natural energy drink. I probably take one of those every morning. I'm not a coffee drinker. I usually take one somewhere by 9 o'clock, sometimes earlier, to kind of get myself going. So I kind of went about my normal routine when I started taking this, wasn't really recognizing too much until we had talked, probably about maybe about a week and a half after this or something. And I didn't really think much about it, but I noticed probably about 4 or 5 days into taking this, hitting about 8:39ish, when I was probably ready to take one of these energies. I'm like, I don't really know if I feel like I need that. It's kind of weird. Didn't really think about it and just went on my day. And then the next day, same thing, till finally we discussed it and we were talking about it. And I said, wait a minute, I think I feel like I have a lot more energy in the morning, that I didn't even need to take this energy drink, because I got more natural energy into my cells from all the mechanism of everything we just talked about with the NAD and what it's supposed to do in our body, and how it's supposed to help energize our cells. So that's probably the biggest thing I noticed from it, was just more natural energy first thing in the morning after taking it in the morning. How about you? What did you notice?
So I would have to say energy. And I think it hit about 3 days in, which I know they were saying, usually you'll feel this after 3 days. And but what they're saying now is wait till 2 months. Wait till you've been on this product 2 months, because then it really because your body, obviously, the older we are, the more damage has been done. So this is trying to reverse some of that. So the longer we're on the product, obviously, the more impact it's going to have. But one of the things that I am blown away with, like absolutely blown away with, is the mental clarity. I can't even describe it. It's like, it is, I wouldn't say it's photographic memory, because I've never had photographic memory, but I was working on a message, because I'm coming up on doing a message in a couple of weeks, and I was doing some research the night before, and the research, I was reading through a whole article, and it came back and said, okay, there's 114 of these, but 2 of these, and I woke up in the morning, and I usually, thinking through some of the things I studied the day before, and also I'm like, oh yeah, there's 114 of these and 2 of these, and I'm like, holy cow, I don't ever remember that stuff. Like never. I have to write down, like, if there's a 2, it's like, oh yes, I can't remember it's 2, so put it down. And I don't know when I started losing all that. Maybe it's always been that way, but the mental clarity with this thing is amazing. Even like, all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I can organize those files on my computer or stuff like that. Cause I'm like, well, you could just, for some reason, you just think sharper and clearer, and it lasts throughout the whole day. It's not like it dwindles towards night. It's amazing. And yet then the other thing I would say is sleep is better. Sleep has gotten better because of this. And so it's weird. So you have the more energy, but then your cells also are able to rest easier at night. So yeah, it's been a really amazing product.
So what would be an analogy you can come up with for this? Like,
So I love it. And one of our, one of those who we work with came up with it. It's the best way to describe it is if our cells were a cell phone, and at night we have to plug our cell phone in to recharge. This is what BioAge is. It's plugging in your cell phone, it's plugging in your cells so that they are re-energized. And if you look at it like, the older you are, the later model iPhone you have, so you might have an iPhone 4 or an iPhone 6, and it just, man, you got to plug that thing in like 3 times a day just to keep going through the day, right? It's sort of like that, where somebody has the brand new, what is it, iPhone 17? I don't know, I can't even keep track anymore.
Whatever they're up to.
Yeah, they last like probably 6 days for all I know. I charge my phone up every night. But I feel like BioAge is basically, you're plugging your phone in once a day, you're plugging your cells in once a day to recharge your energy, to give your body the ability to reproduce those NADs now, from what I understand. And then so you have that charge. And then guess what? It's helping to reverse the aging, in the sense of, we have a biological clock and we have a chronological clock. So biologically, you can't change that age. You were born on such and such a day, and you are so many years old, okay? But your chronological age is something we can mess with, because even though you're 60 years old, your body can physically be that of a 50-year-old, because you've just taken better care of your health. You've eaten better, you've exercised, that kind of thing. Where somebody who is 40 could have the body age of a 60-year-old, just because they've taken such poor care of their body. So what I love about this product is just, I feel like, it gives you that mulligan. It gives you a second chance to have new energy and new life again. So it's been great. And so I'm really curious how, again, being on the product for, maybe in a year or two, to see, oh my goodness, this is crazy what it's doing. So
it's been a great product. And like you said, I think it's a good place to kind of start wrapping up about, what Mulligan would come to. And I think, again, reversing aging is a great Mulligan, being able to change that clock and being able to either feel better at an older age, or which I do. Again, I'm 50, you're 60, we got 10 years between us. And I feel great at my age. Don't really feel 50 at all. So, if I can keep reversing that a little bit, I'm fine with that. I don't have any problem with that at all. So, I am thankful for this company, thankful for the products they produce. Thankful for things as we think about this Thanksgiving season, to just, so many things to be thankful for. And I think as we've talked, through aging and through exercising a little bit, we do have one body, we got to take care of it. And I think we have to be very thankful for the health we have. And I am very grateful and very thankful for the health that I do have. I hope that continues. And I know there's lots of people that suffer with a lot of different things. And I'm sure in their own ways, they're still thankful for what they are able to do, and as limited as it may be. But I am definitely thankful for, I guess maybe this is a good way to wrap up. Just shout out a few things you're thankful for, Ken. So I guess the other things I would say is, I am thankful for our freedom. I am thankful for this country. I'm thankful that we can come on here on a podcast and do whatever we want and just talk about different topics. And we're allowed to do that. That's such a cool thing to do. Thankful for my wonderful family, my wonderful wife, my extended family. You, Ken, is my sibling, one of my siblings, and that I get to do this with you. So there is so many thankful things to be, and thankful for my God in heaven who saved me as well. So That's what I would wrap up with. How about you?
I can just echo what you said. I'm so grateful for for our God and for Jesus Christ, man, and just changing my life. And so grateful for my wife and our wonderful kids, 5 kids, and grateful for our extra kids that we have through marriage, and now 2 grandkids. So that is just awesome. And like you said, Brian, grateful for being a country that we're free, and we take that for granted a lot. And I'm grateful for my health. I know this episode's been about health, and I really am. I'm grateful that I can go out and I can run in the morning, and I can sprint, and I can. Man, I've been taking these flights of stairs all the time just to work out, and so I'm so grateful that because I couldn't do that years ago. I really couldn't. So I guess we encourage our listeners. Sometimes I know we can get discouraged as we age and say, hey, I can't do this anymore and stuff like that. But I want to encourage you to take a mulligan and don't believe that. Like, really, there is something more you can do. I firmly believe that. And maybe you just got to figure out a way to just push yourself a little more and get beyond that doubt of this is how life has to be, because I just don't buy into that anymore. I really don't. I think there's something we can do, and to be thankful for what we can do, because I think sometimes we get stuck on what we can't do and just be stuck, focus on what we can do, be grateful, and so we want to wish everybody a really happy Thanksgiving, and we're so grateful you listen to our podcast, and hopefully you invite your friends to jump in and listen as well.
We know everyone can use a second chance or a do-over, so take a mulligan and try again. Thanks so much for joining with us today. Make sure you follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. Like, click, and subscribe.